Swamp Thing, episode 7, Brilliant Disguise. Hope everybody had a decent and happy and safe Thanksgiving. So, 7 episodes and we got 3 more in the books, but let's get through episode 7 and talk about it. So this episode picks up where the last one, like immediately when the last episode left. Because in the last episode, Abby and Swamp Thing, they were at the laboratory together, and then the magical powers of the green had transformed Swamp Thing back into Alec Holland. So Abby starts freaking out, but then, but then he said to her, he said that I didn't actually turn back into Alec Holland. He's like, like I'm still dead. But he said that the green, but the green can sense my power. It can sense my emotions. And it sensed the fact that what I badly wanted was for you to see me how I used to be. So, the green, answered the call, and it put out a hallucinogen like spore or whatever that made Abby view Swamp Thing as Alec. So the two of them are trying to they're kind of like reconnecting. And Alec is telling her that, there's a whole lot of new things that's going on with his powers. He's like, he can hear plants when they wake up in the morning. He can bring things to them. The plants talk to him. He even created like some plums, he created like a plum tree out of nowhere. And, he was giving some fruit to Abby. So the two of them were, they were having a conversation talking about it. And Alec was telling her, he was like, there's something that's going on in the forest, like in the green, where there's danger out there. He was like, the plants, they're telling me that there's danger out here. So Abby's just like, well, if there's danger out there, she was just like, because what Alec said, he was like, there's a poison, there's like an evil out there that's contaminating the green. And then Abby was like, well, if I can get a sample of it, maybe I can use it to try to come up with a cure, because she's still trying to fix him. She's still trying to cure him and turn him back into Alec Holland. So she's telling him, so Alec's just like, well, we don't want to go to that place because that's like the danger zone. The danger zone. That's like the dead zone for where, for where all this is starting. But of course, like Abby, she's stubborn. So she's like, we're going, Alec. And then, Alec, he ain't gonna argue. So the two of them, they go down to, to where all the evil is being spread throughout the green. So then, Maddie's mom, the police officer, I can't remember her damn name. So she ends up going down to the Sunderland house because she has some business to discuss with Avery. Avery's at the house. He's talking to Maria. Because remember in the last we saw Maria, she got into that whole thing with the ghost of Shauna. And Shauna tried to drag her down to the abyss. She was in the hospital. The hospital gave her some medication. And the medication that they gave her, because even Avery pointed this out, for some reason, like, she's happier. Like, she has a little bit more pep in her step. She's out here, like, cooking home cooked meals, because Avery was supposed to be meeting with this very important government official. And the person who he was supposed to meet with, this guy could potentially give him funding to fund all of his research projects for the swamp. But he needs Woodrow to prove to him that the whole, allergen or whatever they call it, the stuff that Woodrow came up with, that ended up curing the guy that had the brain damage. He needs to prove to that guy that stuff actually works so they can get the money. So they're having like a dinner event for him and everything. So, and again, like Avery's talking to his wife and he's just like, oh, because instead of getting a caterer, his wife, she made a home cooked meal. And then when I realized the dude was black, I was like, I see what you did there. So, but while they were talking, then the sheriff shows up. She wants to have a word with Avery in private. Her and Avery are talking. She basically tells him, she runs up on him and she's like, look, you son of a bitch. She was like, I know that, you had my son kill Alec Holland and this, that, and the third. But she was like, guess what, motherfucker? She's like, Alec Holland's alive. And, he was like, Alec Holland's alive. And then she was just like, yeah, we got to go take care of him, because she was like, he's out there in the swamp and we need to take care of him, because if Alec Holland starts talking, we all going down. So he was just like, all right, cool. So they gear up and they try to go down to the swamp to go find Alec Holland. While they're down there, the two of them, like they're walking through the woods, whatever. Avery got the shotgun. And then, while they're walking around, Avery was just like, yo, this don't feel right. So then he takes the shotgun and points it to the sheriff, because he was just like, I ain't stupid. He's like, you brought me out here to take care of me once and for all, to kill my ass, which is basically what it was. She brought him out there because he was the one that hired Maddie to kill Alec Holland. And Avery's the one that can basically, like if all three of them do get in trouble and then they end up getting like busted by the feds or whatever, and this goes to trial, Avery has the connections and the power to the point where he can get himself off scot free, and the other two of them can go down. So just to make sure they protect themselves, she tried to kill him. She basically tried to kill him. Maddie showed up. He was in on it too. They both knocked out Avery, tied him up, and they threw him in the boat, and they were going to kill him. Now, here's where it got weird for me, because when Avery Sunderland was in the boat, he was tied up, and, Maddie had the shotgun on him, and they were getting ready to kill him and dump him in the swamp. Avery basically said to Maddie, he was like, I don't know how you're going to feel about killing your own father. And then, both me and Maddie at the same time, we was like, what? And then he was like, I'm your daddy boy. And then he said this, he's like, is he telling the truth? Is he my father? And then she was like, shut up, Maddie. And then she's like, tell me the truth. And then, then Avery took a knife from under the boat, stabbed Maddie in the chest. And then the sheriff blasted him in the back with she shot him like 3 times. She shot him with the shotgun. Avery fell into the water. And then she ended up needing to get help because Maddie was bleeding. And then she ended up bringing Maddie back to Maria Sunderland's house. But while they were on their way to Maria's house, Maddie said to her, he was like, is that true? Is he my daddy? And then she was like, I was trying to protect you. And I was just like, stop. I was like, hold on, time out, stop. There is nothing about Maddie that looks like or remotely resembles Avery Sunderland. Avery is a white male, and I'm pretty sure he was blonde before he went gray. The sheriff is a white female with dark hair. Maddie is black. Now, granted, he looks mixed. I'll give him that. Like, he looks mixed, like he could be. Because didn't at one point, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Maddie's mother, the sheriff, wasn't she like with Delray at one point? Like, Liz's dad, like, weren't they a couple? Now, if you're telling me that Delroy and the sheriff were together, and together they birthed Maddie, and Maddie was their child, I can believe that, because Maddie looked like Delroy. That would make Liz his sister, but he looked like Delroy, and I can buy that being his mom. I guess he does not look like no Avery Sunderland. So unless there's another part of the story that we don't know about, that is the worst casting and the poor. It's like, if he's gonna be Avery's son, at least get like Maddie has wool hair. Like, look at his hair. Like, Maddie got black people hair. Maddie does not have silky white hair. He has black people hair. He has a tan. That's not that boy daddy. Anyway, and when he said that, I literally like paused, and I was like looking at both of them for like that's ridiculous. So anyway, so Avery dead in the water, and the sheriff, she bringing Maddie to the Sunderland house. Maria Sunderland now, she ends up going to Woodrow, and she's just like, listen, tonight for the dinner, she was just like, I need to know if you had the proper funding and the right equipment, could you actually pull off this miracle cure that you think you can pull off? And then he said, yeah. He was like, I have no doubt that I can pull it off. So she was like, all right, cool. She's like, dinner's at 7. Make sure you're there at 7. So the person that's supposed to, that the dinner is for, the guy that they're trying to get the money from, he shows up. He's a big city guy, big wig government guy. He was also Black Manta's daddy in the Aquaman movie. Nice little tidbit. As soon as he answered the door, I was like, oh, Black Manta daddy. So he comes in, he's the government agent, and then he's just like, listen, he was like, I don't like coming to small ass towns and shit. So he's like, what y'all got to say to me better be good. And then she was like, and then Maria was like, oh, we've prepared dinner for you. He was like, I ain't come here for no food, woman. He's like, I came here for the plans. So they're sitting down at the dinner table. Maria Sunderland ends up, they have the pamphlets and the booklets, and she's telling him, she's like, through Woodrow's experiments, we cured a guy who had a brain disease within 2 or 3 days, and with enough time and experiments and money backing us, we can create like a cure for like a lot of diseases and things like that. Once he said that, and once he read that, he took a scoop of that pecan pie that she made. And he was just like, he took a bite. He was like, you really made this pie from scratch? And I'm like, oh, now all of a sudden we here for the food. You know what I'm saying? Like, now that she's speaking his language, he's like, I think I will have a piece of that pie. So they had a dinner. The dinner went good, and he agreed to fund the research. And coincidentally, because Maria was the one that planned the whole thing, because she orchestrated, she baked the food, she had the meeting, she did all the talking. Her signature was on the contract, not not Avery's. So she basically scooped her husband out on getting that contract deal. I mean, yes, because they're married, Avery Sunderland will be a part of it, but Maria Sunderland is actually the name that's on that contract, which means the whole thing's in her name. So then, so then after that, then the government agent leaves. Woodrow and his wife leaves. They did a scene where Woodrow and his wife, they were both home, and his wife, she was just like, "Oh, honey," she was like, she was like, "Who was the couple at dinner?" And he was just like, they weren't a couple actually, but because like she again like she's forgetting everything. Like she has the disease where like she's losing her memory. So even that, like she knew why they were going to dinner beforehand, but once she got there, she completely blanked and she forgot. She doesn't know who these people are again. So so he's in like panic mode now because he needs that contract to save his wife. So he's happy about that. And then Maddie ends up, Maddie and the sheriff, they show up to Maria's house and they're just like, she was just like, "You can't bring him in here." And then she was like, "Well, I can't take him to the hospital." And then I was like, "Well, why can't you take him to the to the hospital?" So there was a doctor there. He was stitching him, like stitching him up. And then the sheriff and Maria go off to the corner. And then she's like, "Did you get the contract?" She's like, "Yeah, I got the contract." She's like, "Did you kill him?" She was like, "Yeah, I killed him." And I was like, these heifers are in cahoots. so Avery Sunderland's wife and his mistress plotted against him to get him out of the way. Specifically, to get him out of the way so her and Maddie can be safe from his blackmail. And Maria wanted him dead because I guess she was tired of the lying and the cheating and everything, and she wanted him out of the way so she can take the contract herself and make the money on her own, which is why she orchestrated the dinner and took that whole situation over. But she did get but it worked on her end because she got the signature. Avery got Avery dead in the water. Maddie's upset now because he just learned that's his daddy. But c'est la vie, we're moving on from there. So now Abby and Alec, because again, like he's Alec now, like the green transformed him back into Alec. Alec takes her to a special part of the green, a special part of the forest. And when they got there, I was like, why is this so bright? Like throughout this entire show, Moraine, Louisiana is dark. I'm talking about like Gotham dark. Like it's pitch black even in the daytime in, like in Moraine, Louisiana. Even if you look at all my thumbnails and all like the screenshots I take, everything's dark, dark, dark. You can't see. This is the brightest this show has been since it came on. And I'm like, why are there pink flowers and everything? I was just like, it was one of those things where like I'm watching the show. And then when Alec and Abby went to that green, like and the brightness happened, like part of me just went like, it was just like too much light. So but he was just like, this is the true green, this is what the green represents. And then they were both just taking it in, having a nice little stroll together. So then we get to the dark part of the green where everything is decayed, everything's falling apart, everything's turning black. This represents like the disease, the evil that Avery and Woodrow put into the forest. And it's spreading like like it's decaying and spreading out throughout the forest. So they were just like, this small part already died, and if we don't do something, then the whole green is going to die and all this beauty will disappear. So Abby was just like, "I need to get a sample." And then Alec was like, "Abby, don't do that." And then she was just like, "I'm going to do it. I'm going to get a sample." I'm like, damn well she going to get that damn sample. So she walked out to the dead zone. She went and got the sample. And when she took a sample, one of the trees that was next to her reached out, grabbed her on the arm, and sliced her arm. So once it sliced her arm, Alec got her out of there. She was bleeding. She did get the sample, but she was bleeding. And then he took her back to the house, so he can try to patch the wound. So Abby's bleeding. She's bleeding out the arm now, and her veins were turning green and everything, and the poison was running through her body. And then when she said that, she was like, "This is." She's like, "This is a disease that it's spreading and it's feeding," but she said there is a plant that that can cure it. There's a plant that can cure it. She was like, "I need the plant, Alec." And Alec was like, "I don't know where the plant is. I can't get the plant. We don't have time." And she was like, "Bro, like you just made like peaches and shit come out of the wood." She was just like, "Focus on the plant. You can bring the plant. Like everything else he was able to bring, you can bring the plant." So he focused his power, he used his energy, and the plant that she needed, he brought it to her. He gave her the plant sample. She swallowed it. And then it started working where like the plant sample ended up fighting against the disease, and there was a war going on in her arm between the Green and the decayed part of the Green. He transformed back into Swamp Thing so he can use his magical powers to kind of like guide the cure. It ended up curing her. She passed out, and then she was okay. But he told her, he said that what was happening with inside of you with the disease, with the good part of the Green going up against like the contaminated part. He said that's basically what's happening now. He's like, what's going on now? It's a fight for the swamp between like, again, like the disease and the regular Green. So, so the two of them were just talking, and then, after she calmed down a little bit, he basically told her, he was like, well, the day's almost over. And he said it was nice to be Alec Holland for a day. And then Abby felt bad, along with the fact that, he did save her life and everything. She basically leaned over and she kissed him. She kissed him as Alec Holland, not Swamp Thing, but that's an illusion. So I was like, girl, you just kissed a swamp creature. So, so the two of them kissed, which was nice. The next morning, well, actually it wasn't even the next morning. She woke up, I guess like hours later, and Alec was sitting down by the dock. She came out to talk to him, and then he was just like, I think you should leave, because he was like, what's going on with me right now? He was like, I was chosen to be this swamp creature for a reason. He's like, it chose me to help fight this war between the contamination and the Green. Like, I'm here to save the Green and to save humanity. And he was just like, I appreciate you trying to save me. I appreciate you trying to turn me back into Holland, but I was turned into the Swamp Thing for a reason, and I need to fulfill my destiny. And he said, now that we'd have made out, now we didn't had swamp sex, and I like you. He's like, I don't want you involved in this. He's like, I think it's a good idea that you just go and never come back to see me again. And the weirdest thing about that, she didn't even put up a damn fight. She didn't put up an argument. She didn't say, but Alec, no. Like, Abby dipped. Like, she didn't even, and I was just like, girl, like, you just gonna kiss and run. And, but then when she got on the boat, she called Liz. And then she told Liz, she was just like, Alec's given up all hope, Liz. And then she was like, in order for me to cure him, I'm going to have to, look into the CDC resources. And the only way I can get those resources, she was like, I got to go back to Atlanta. So Abby's on her way back home, back to the ATL where they shoot Black Lightning. And she's basically leaving Murray to fend, to fend for itself. And, and then so after that, that was pretty much it for that. And then in the final scene, because again, like, so we have the sheriff who now has to deal with the fact that her son knows who her daddy is, which is bullshit. We got the fact that Maria got her contract signed and she took care of her husband. Abby's on her way back to Atlanta. Swamp Thing has accepted his fate of being the one that has to take down the Green. The Woodrows are, going through their thing, and they're trying to plan their whole escape. And then in the final scene, Avery Sunderland done pulled his dead ass and out the swamp, and now he crawling around, and Avery Sunderland is alive. And it's not on a Swamp Thing level, but he does have some of that contaminated swamp juice in his system. So that's where we're at with that. So Avery alive, and when he pop up now, he gonna be wreaking havoc. Basically, he get revenge on everybody now, because his mistress, his wife, and his bastard son, they basically try to kill him. So now he about to fuck the whole shit up. And that was it. This was good. This was good, because now, like, we're getting into the beef with these characters. No Madame Xanadu, no Blue Devil this episode. We're getting in depth more with a lot of the other characters. The actor who plays Alec Holland gets a chance to come back now that the pollen can magically hallucinate people to see who he really is. So again, so that's in the books. We got 3 more episodes left. And then we'll learn, and then I guess in the future we'll learn what the fate of the Green happens to be, and whether or not Swamp Thing will get picked up for a season 2. So thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I appreciate the conversations that you guys have been sending me before, like with the questions and everything. Like, it's cool that we can sit here and talk about it and share opinions and share thoughts, and things of that nature. So definitely keep it coming, keep it locked. And until next time, for the Green and for Swamp Thing, take care. And I'm out this.